Do the Dallas Stars have bigger plans for Justin Ritskovian than we originally thought? With 2 preseason games remaining, it looks like it may be his job to lose.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free, available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome back to another week of Locked On Stars, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Is it Justin Ritskovian's job to lose? With 2 preseason games remaining, he's trying to prove he deserves a spot on the opening night roster. Or has Glenn Gulutzan already penciled him in? We're going to discuss that on today's show, as well as the latest Stars roster moves. And we'll hear from Glenn Gulutzan after practice today on this Monday. So stick around, sit back, relax, and enjoy a jammed-packed show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you so much for the love and support on each and every episode. So the reason why I'm asking, is it Justin Ritskovian's job to lose, is because at practice today, he was playing alongside Wyatt Johnston and Maverick Bourque. This is a trio we saw in the last preseason game. They had a lot of success, albeit Glenn Gulutzan did say he's not taking a ton of stock out of that preseason game, but he will put a lot of stock into the final 2 because each team is going to start filling out their roster, and there are just a few more cuts that need to be made. So Ritskovian and others he's competing with, like Arttu Huru, who we talked about on the last episode, Adam Ernie, they are going to be playing in some NHL-heavy lineups over the last couple of days, and more importantly, playing against NHL-heavy lineups. So now it's time to prove you deserve a spot. But Ritskovian playing alongside Johnston and Bourque in practice, I think, is a really good sign. And this, of course, all comes from the Jamie Benn injury. Now the Stars have the opportunity to maybe take a risk on a younger guy. But there is multiple factors. Contracts, how each contract goes against the cap. So you look at Justin Ritskovian and you look at Arttu Huru, their cap hit would be $870,000 for this season. Now, Adam Ernie, he's not going to give you as much offensive pop. And this is why I said I think Ritskovian may have an edge over Ernie and Huru because he can contribute offensively. And with the loss of Jamie Benn, you weren't expecting him to give you 20 to 25 goals this season, but you were expecting him to be a pretty key piece in more than likely your top 6. At least that's what it looked like coming in to the season. Ritskovian can replace some of that. 22 goals and 60 points in 67 games last year in Texas. And of course, the competition, the speed of the game is going to be a lot different. But if he gets to play alongside Bourque, who for the time being looks like he's made a real jump, looked really, really good the other day. We all know what Wyatt Johnston is, had a couple of goals in the preseason game against Minnesota. He continues to be strong. I think Ritskovian has the opportunity to kind of solidify himself as not just a 13th forward. I don't even know if Ritskovian's battling to be a 13th forward for Dallas. Seems like he's going to be an important cog, at least early on this season, and they're going to give him an opportunity, more importantly. So I want to share with you this answer from Gulutzan today on just Ritskovian and his game and his camp so far.
Yeah, and I'm not reading too much into the last game. I'm going to start reading in more into these games. But, you know, certainly they had some chemistry, had some success, and you want to kind of keep that going. But, you know, putting him on left wing for a game, Ritzy, you know, we know what he can do at center. They've got long looks at him here, but now he's got to play on left wing and against an NHL roster, and then see how that goes.
So I think it's fair to say they at least like him next to Johnston and Bork. And he's also a lefty. That's another point I brought up that may give him an edge. Huru is a righty. And of course, that doesn't always, it's not end all be all if you're left or right. But I think that the Stars would like to stack up that left side with some lefties. Now, Oscar Beck pretty much is going to fill in as your fourth line left winger next to Foxa and Bastian / Blackwell to some degree. But it looks like Ritskovian has the opportunity and now the edge within the room to win a roster spot and play some meaningful minutes. I mean, playing alongside Johnston, who for the most part, I think averaged the most minutes last season of time on ice out of every forward last season, just because he played in all situations. And he was pretty darn good for Dallas as well, even as the, I guess, quote unquote, third line center. So Ritskovian now has the opportunity to not only just make the opening night roster, but be a pretty key piece for Dallas. And this goes back to sort of my take on the Benn injury, which stinks, but it could be a blessing in disguise. Gulutzan, at the end of the day, is going to make decisions on what is best for him to win games. And he could believe that is Adam Ernie, right? Ernie's a veteran. He has experience with him when Ernie played with the Edmonton Oilers a couple seasons ago. Ernie is 30 years of age. He had a hip injury this past season, so he only played 10 games with the Hartford Wolfpack and the Detroit Red Wings organization, but he has 379 career games, 91 points in those 379 career games. He's a depth piece. He's not going to give you a boatload of production. He understands his role. And let's face it, a lot of times head coaches, coaching staffs, they like to sort of err on the side of experience and older veterans. And Ernie is certainly that. He's been around the block, and I think he would be a safe pick. But with the injury to Benn specifically and how you viewed Benn coming into the season, I don't know if Dallas can just go the safe route. Ernie is someone I think they already have a plethora of. And to be fair, he could be cheaper than Ritskovian or Huru, because more than likely the Stars would sign him to a veteran minimum contract. You have to remember, Ernie is here on a professional tryout, so he is not under contract currently. He would probably sign sort of a Blackwell deal, like 1 year, $775,000. You would expect. So that could also factor in on how the Stars make their decision because of balancing that and trying to win hockey games. And we're going to hear from Gulutzan a bit later on that. But back to the point, Benn and what you saw him kind of coming in the season, not that he was going to be, 70 to 80 points, but still a contributor on the power play, still a contributor at 5-on-5. Ritskovian is a better fit and a better option, I believe, to fill that role for Dallas than maybe a Huru or Ernie at this point in time. And if they like him next to Bork and Johnston, we're going to keep a close eye on that in the final 2 preseason games. He maybe only get one chance to prove it. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. But it seems as of now, the Stars at least want him, or at least giving him that opportunity to earn himself a spot. But it's really going to come down to these final 2 preseason games. As Gulutzan said there, he's not taking a lot of stock in the last one because the NHL lineups are going to get heavier as the final 2 preseason games come around. He said, and we'll hear from him, for the most part, it's going to be most of his guys. The math isn't mathing now. There's just a couple more spots and positions open to make, and Ritskovian needs to make the most of it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where the Stars go. And again, to sort of hammer home the point, I think Ritskovian is the best option right now because you have a lot of Ernies. I think you have that in Bastion. You have that in Blackwell. For the most part, you have that in back where they're just depth guys, players that are a stereotypical fourth line player. They are hard on the forecheck. They work hard. They do all that stuff, and they don't chip in a ton offensively. Dallas, for the most part, they're going to need, I think, all they can get production-wise from the bottom six. They're going to need as much as they can from depth-wise. We talked about a slim left wing group, and you were hoping Ben still has some juice left, and then you lose Marchment to Donov. That's 40-something goals right there. And then you lose Ben, who had 16. So you're going to need Ritskovian and his offensive potential to play well, and to, I think, play some meaningful minutes. And it just gives you some more juice. It's another reason why I think it's sort of a blessing in some ways. Like, you get to see it like, okay, Ritskovian, like, it's put up or shut up time. This is your opportunity. Can you make the most out of it? And I don't think it's a bad thing. Healthy competition, never a bad thing. And he has a shot. They're giving him the opportunity. At least that's what it seems like. So those are some of my thoughts on Ritskovian and why now it feels like it's kind of with 2 preseason games, like it's your job, man, if you go and take it. So we'll see what happens. Otherwise, Stars going to have some tough decisions. Now, Stars did make some roster moves today, to be expected. So we'll jump into that. Some more on the Ben injury and how it affects the Stars moving forward, and the fascinating conversation with the final cuts still yet to be made. We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is so fun because it allows you to bet however you like, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're just watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy. It's the best way to just add some energy to your weekends. And it's not just NFL, it's college football on Saturdays. It is Major League Baseball. It is the National Hockey League that's about to start up. It is all of the above. So many different ways for you to get in on the action. NFL season is here. It's exciting. When you're on the couch on Sundays, make a little extra money. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. These roster moves were to be expected by the Dallas Stars today, but Kyle Capobianco, Cole Lynn, and Antonio Strangis both survived waivers, so to speak. They passed, and they have been loaned back to Texas. And, of course, those were 3 key pieces for the Texas Stars last year. So Strangis, Lynn, and Capobianco are now back with the Texas Stars. So some good news there as well. Looking at the practice lines today, you had Hintz, Ranton, and Robertson. Steele, Duchesne, Sagan. So Steele is the player that sort of fills what we expected to be Jamie Benn's role, I guess, to some degree, with Duchesne and Sagan, which I really like just because Steele is a direct player. He plays north and south. Duchesne's a bit more east and west, a playmaker. Sagan, at this point in his career, he's north-south player as well. I think there's a good combination there of some speed. And I don't know how it's all going to work together. I guess we're going to have to give it a shot here the next couple of games just to see how they kind of interact with one another, how they play. But I can see that line having some success. And then, of course, you got the Johnston, Ritskovian, Bork, and then it's back Foxa and Blackwell, which is really interesting just because I kind of came in with the notion, I feel like Bastion's going to play a lot this year just because they brought him in to sort of fill this style of being more physical. But with Ben gone now, if you bring in Ritskovian, the Stars have, I think, plenty of options stylistically and archetypes. Now they can get a bit creative. Of course, this isn't the end-all be-all. It's not like this is going to be the opening night roster. I think Bastian Blackwell at this point, it's fair to say those are going to be the two guys fighting for the 12th forward position. And I think Bastian at this point, he's at least the 13th forward. Look, he's going to be on the roster. They brought him in to bring a physical presence. He may not play every night, but he'll certainly be on the roster. I just think with Ritskovian, again, I don't think he's battling to just be the 13th forward. That's why I feel like maybe his spot is a lot more secure than we think. I don't see how playing him this late with John, playing him with Johnson, I just feel like is a sign, right? I don't think we have to overthink that. I don't think he's battling to make the roster at this point. It's sort of how I see it. Maybe I'm a bit over my skis. I'm thinking too far ahead, but I think that's an obvious sign to throw him with two of your young, superstars to some degree. Johnson is, Bork, you're hoping is going to pop. I just think that's a sign and a point that here you go. You're going to get this opportunity now. See if you can make it worthwhile. Really, the battle, I think, then just goes to who's going to play more between Blackwell and Bastian. And that's just going to come down, I think, to each every night. Maybe the opponent, what Dallas is looking for, maybe what they're lacking on certain nights. And that will give Dallas some creativity. Again, I could see Ernie as well. I don't think you should write him off as well. Maybe he's a guy that can win a spot because he is a prototypical fourth line player. He's going to fill that role. And if they don't believe Ritskovian is going to play at least enough to make it worth his while, then Ernie could win that job. And let's face it, I think he's going to be a tad cheaper. The Stars are fine in terms of the cap space, but you never know with the cap gymnastics if they feel like a couple $1,000 here really helps them out. And Ernie, again, has some relationships or has a presence with Gulutzan from his time with Edmonton. And as Robert Tiffin put in one of his articles, he is well-liked within the locker room. So that certainly helps. And I wouldn't put it past them to keep a guy like him around. He could be a guy they keep and have him in the AHL. That's also an option. So just because he gets a contract doesn't mean he's going to be with Dallas. So they could, stash him down the AHL, try Ritskovian at first. If it's not working, then maybe they bring up a guy like Ernie, or they try out a guy like Huru. A lot of different scenarios that the Stars could run through. So I'm really fascinated by this, but I'm just trying not to overthink it to some degree. I think I have overthought some things like the Beck situation. Seems like he's going to be your left winger on that fourth line and play pretty regularly, unless they want to mix up some stuff there. So I think it's at this point in this stage of training camp, and now Gulutzan talking about these final two preseason games, like this is big. They want to be sharp right off the bat. This sort of goes back to the point I made a couple episodes ago too. You don't want to have hesitancy. You want to make sure you have some stability and have 100% approach to what you're doing going into the year, and not just feel things out, because it's a tough schedule. I think Gulutzan is going to feel it a bit. The pressure, once the games really start, pressure is going to be there. He needs to win games. He's trying to prove that he can be a coach at this level. He has a roster now that can be successful, and it's his job to make it work. And his influence so far has looked good. We've liked what we've seen. I think the Stars are on the right track, going the right direction, but you don't want to have any hesitancy. You don't want to just be throwing guys in certain positions and be like, okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. There's a time and place for that. But I think now, after the injury to Ben and whatnot, it's important that they have conviction in their choices, is how I would put it. There needs to be conviction behind each one, and you can ride or die with those a bit. And you're going to have to adapt, of course, and maybe it doesn't work here tomorrow against St. Louis. Maybe Ritskovian isn't working, and they try something next night, and it does, and that's what they go with. But there's a lot of different scenarios now with the final roster moves kind of being made over the last week or so. Like it's pretty obvious. There's the math ain't mathin'. He talked about that a bit today. The guys know they're fighting for very limited spots, and now it's time to hit the ground running here. We're about 14, 15, 16 days away from whatever it is, the opening night. Like it's time to put up or shut up. So these last two preseason games are going to be important. We'll hear from Gulutzan after practice today on his approach to the final two games and what it means for the Stars moving forward. We'll do that in just a moment. I always like listening to the press conferences from Gulutzan and players after practice. There's always good nuggets within there, and there's a couple of spots I'm going to play for you today. And we'll start with one that goes back to sort of the balance of making cuts and how the factors of a power play, special teams, roles all sort of go into these final decisions. And just because maybe a certain player is better than the other doesn't mean they're going to make the roster, because potentially they're not filling the role that you need to fill. And Gulutzan had some thoughts on that.
We only got 2 games left, so you're balancing. We got to get our roster in. We'd like to have a PP to start the season that looks crisp and clean and can get you some points early. So you're balancing that with who's going to make the team. So, probably for the guys that are trying to get their foot in the door, there's 1 game left for them, really, each. And so, now the stakes get a little higher in those games.
And it's also good that they can see these guys under pressure. This may be the most important preseason game Ritskovian, Huru, or Ernie play in their career, since there is pressure now. And that's, I think, a good thing for the staff to see. It goes back to the competition. And hopefully that brings out the best in each of these players. And with the sort of sloppiness, you could say, over the previous, 4 preseason games, Gulutzan mentioned that it had more of an AHL pace. There were more AHL games than they were NHL pace, but we're going to start seeing that because St. Louis is going to have most of their roster, you would think, and then Colorado as well to finish it out. So it should be a lot more crisper. It should be cleaner. You're going to get a real good idea of what each of these teams is going to look like going into the season. And then you're really going to see if you sink or swim, so to speak. Is the game going to be too fast for Ritskovian? Is he going to be lost? Is he going to be out of his comfort zone? Does he look uncomfortable playing alongside Johnston and Bork? All of those things. But it feels like Gulutzan, and I mean, sort of put it out there, like they're going to be playing a heavy rock. Like you're probably going to see 9 forwards in most of the defense. That the Stars are going to trot out there on opening night. And he talked about his approach to these final 2 preseason games as well.
We'll have a pretty much our whole team going. Obviously, we've only got if you look at, we got 15 forwards, right? So we'll pretty much have everybody going, and we've got 8 D, so we're going to have lots of players going. So haven't finalized the lineup yet, but we'll have a lot of players going. I think all teams now at this point are, with 2 games left, are going to play most of the roster, especially St. Louis being at home. So it'll be good. It'll be good games.
And currently, Petrovic and Gulutzan are both on the roster still as well. So Gulutzan could be a potential 7th defenseman for the Stars. Somebody we haven't maybe talked about enough. Petrovic at 33, they may feel he's more valuable down in the AHL at this point, but he's always going to be an option and always going to be a safe option for the Stars. So that's another battle that still continues to work itself out in the last 2 preseason games. So I would think you're going to see Petrovic and Kolyachonok in one of these 2 final games, and then you'll get some combination. You'll probably see Ritskovian and then one game, and then maybe Ernie and Huru in another, or maybe it's Huru and Ritskovian, and then Ernie by himself, whatever combination you want to make. But as he said there, it seems like one of these guys or each of these guys going to have one game to make a difference, because they are going to play a heavy NHL roster. So you may only get one shot, and you got to prove what you can do. So the pressure is certainly going to be on, which makes these games pretty exciting, I think, for all of us to watch as well. Just the Benn injury obviously really hurts. It stinks, but I'm choosing to see this in a real positive way, because I for one, I wasn't thrilled, I guess, with the Bastion signing. I wasn't thrilled with the Foxa one either. I understand them, but it did kind of, I guess, it did kind of fizzle the expectations, or hamper some of the sexiness going into the year, because we thought like Ritskovian and some others were going to have a real shot to make this roster. And I for one would like Dallas to get a bit younger, just get some juice. Of course, you need your veterans, but the Stars have plenty of those. And with the Benn injury, it sort of forces the Stars' hand to see what they got in some of these guys. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I'm really looking forward to sort of the next few weeks now, and to get an opportunity to really get a good look at these guys, just because Stars roster has been really deep over the last few years. Look at the Stankoven, right? I mean, Stankoven became kind of dispensable at some point, like last year, because the Stars were just so loaded. Of course, they had to ship him off for Rantanen, but still, like, the Stars were so deep, it felt like, oh, we could give up this player to get a really, really good player in return. Whereas if the Stars came into this year with Stankoven, like, you're not even thinking about that. Of course, different situation. You're getting Rantanen, but like Stankoven, you would feel like is a big piece now for Dallas. It could sort of help you here, but now you're going to have to give some young guys some shots and some chances, and maybe that's not what the Stars were hoping for. Of course, none of them were hoping for an injury to Benn, and it's significant as it is. As I've said, I don't think you're going to get a fully healthy Jamie Benn until Thanksgiving. Really, is probably the best case scenario, when he's fully in game shape and ready to rock and roll. So like, let's see what we got in some of these guys. Whether it's Ritskovian and Huru, I really liked him last year. He looked really good the other night in the preseason game as well. So it's put up or shut up time, so to speak. So really, really looking forward to the final 2 preseason games. Gulutzan is obviously taking this very serious. Well, of course he should, but he's putting a lot of stock in these games. I would say maybe more than some years past, just because there is decisions to be made. And he has to feel 100% comfortable with what he's putting out there, because he needs to win games. And I like how he's saying that he wants the power play to be crisp. He wants them to be crisp and sort of buttoned up, because the games are going to come hot and heavy, and you're getting some good teams right off the bat. So I did want to share some of those quotes from Gulutzan today after practice. That'll do it for this Monday edition of Locked On Stars. We have a lot to discuss as we continue to count down to opening night against the Winnipeg Jets in just a couple of weeks. Ritskovian, a couple of preseason games remaining. So we'll be breaking all those down here over the next week and a half or so. And please join the show join the club, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment as well. Always appreciate your feedback and the love and support. So thank you as always. Enjoy the rest of your day, Stars fans, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long.